Time ago, when America was young, speakers weren't as style-conscious as they are today. They didn't have to be. Listeners would willingly sit through long debates and sermons. But in today's mass media-dominated world, style is a big influence. You can bet rhetorical events of long ago would have been a lot different if speakers had to heed today's strict emphasis on style.
The challenger is a Republican. The incumbent is a Democrat. But when these two minds go head-to-head, it's all out war. Lincoln, Douglas, Douglas, Lincoln. Watch the Lincoln-Douglas debate live from Illinois. A house divided against itself cannot party down.
Style is a pattern of choices that distinguishes one speech from another. How you use language is really what determines the style of your speech. One of the biggest differences between speaking and writing is that you can't go back and revise a speech, and listeners can't go back and hear it again. Because of this, there's a higher chance that there'll be more verbal clutter in an unpracticed, unprepared speech than in a paper. So, here's a few pointers that might help enhance the style of your speech.
Clarity.
Clarity of speech is important. The more concrete words and images you use, those which your audience can easily grasp, the clearer your speech will be. And what makes for clear speech? Here are a few things to shoot for.
Well, first off, it's a good idea to limit your use of technical terms and jargon.
And that's neurolinguistic psychochemistry in a nutshell.
They'll only clutter up your message if your audience is unfamiliar with them. Remember, your audience hasn't prepared as extensively as you have for this speech, so don't make it difficult for them. You don't want to dumb down the message.
This is a scalpel. It works like a knife. Now, does anybody know what a knife does?
Just don't be too wordy. It's also a good idea to speak in the active voice. The active voice focuses on who does what. Conversely, the passive voice concentrates on what was done. Listen to the difference.
Active voice.
Captain Handsome saved the baby!
Passive voice.
The baby was saved by Captain Handsome!
You see the difference? The active voice makes for a stronger speech.
Rhythm.
Rhythm is the sense of movement or pacing within the speech. A good way to create a sense of rhythm is through repetition. That doesn't mean you should be redundant when you speak, saying the same things over and over, bringing up the same points again and again, just going on and on about the same old information time and time and time again. Just know that it's a good idea to repeat your purpose as you go through the body of your speech. Repetition helps emphasize key points, enhances the audience's ability to remember, and helps a listener understand the overall structure of a speech.
Another fantastic rhythmic device is antithesis. Antithesis is the pairing of opposites within a speech, usually to suggest a choice between the two of them. So, when Kennedy said,
"Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country,"
that was antithesis. It flows off the tongue, moves the speech forward, and makes a point. Here's a little-known example of another Kennedy antithesis.
Error, this is not a sandwich with mayo on the side. This is mayo with a sandwich on the side. Too much mayo!
Another way to create rhythm is through parallel wording. Parallel wording is when the speaker uses a word pattern that's easy for the audience to anticipate. Parallel wording is easy to recognize and creates a rhythm that moves the speech forward. When Lincoln said,
"We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground,"
that was parallel structure. Here's another little-known example of Lincoln using parallel structure.
"I will not eat it with a nun. I will not eat it at Bull Run. I will not eat it with my mouth. I will not eat it in the South."
Imagery.
Imagery is an excellent way to make your speech vivid. A vivid speech is one that's lively, sharp, and intense. Now, we already talked about imagery when we discussed similes and metaphors with supporting materials. But the concept of imagery is worth bringing up once more while we talk about style. You see, the more you tap into your audience's 5 senses, the more successful your speech will be. Similes and metaphors do that. So does a device called onomatopoeia. Now, I know onomatopoeia sounds like an exotic and cruel name to give your child.
But onomatopoeia is actually the term for any word that actually makes sounds like its meaning. Words like moo and woof and bubble and buzz.
Used correctly, onomatopoeia can enhance your speech.
The buzz of the crowd, the crack of the whip, the roar of the lions, the tittering of professional midgets. These are the sounds of the circus.
And that's style, baby. Be conscious of it and your speech will cruise along like a missile in space. Neglect it and your speech will sink like a child actor's career after puberty. Got it? Great. Now let's get out of the trenches and move on to the glory.
Section B, delivery, the moment of truth.
When it comes to giving a speech, delivery is everything. A poorly delivered speech can make all of your research and preparation go for naught. So listen up and find out how you can make your delivery flawless.
If you haven't already guessed, delivery is the presentation of a speech. Delivery involves use of the voice and body to create a desired effect. Good delivery has 3 general characteristics.
First, delivery should not call attention to itself. It should seem natural and uncontrived. Second, good delivery should help the audience listen, understand, remember, and act on the message of a speech. And lastly, effective delivery should create a sense of empathy in the audience, a sense that the speaker feels what the listeners feel and knows what they think.
The million-dollar question: how can you make these things happen during the delivery of your speech? The million-dollar answer? Well, success in delivery lies in 2 main areas: physical aspects and vocal aspects. We'll tackle physical aspects first.
Physical aspects.
Use of the body and physical movement will always influence an audience's first impression of a speaker. It'll also affect their willingness to take the speaker seriously. Changes in bodily placement and physical movement can even help mark transitions in a speech and keep an audience focused on the main message. The gist of all this? Physicality is important while delivering a speech. That in mind, let's look at a few aspects of appearance and body movement and find how they can work for you.
Attire.
What you wear really depends on the event at which you're delivering the speech. Some settings are formal, some more casual. So it's really important to know as much as possible about your setting before the speech. You don't want to give a toast at a wedding wearing snow pants and a tank top.
One rule of thumb: speakers usually dress slightly more formally than the audience members. Speakers have to look somewhat professional, or at least well-kempt, in order to enhance their credibility. A speaker who constantly pushes hair out of her face, adjusts his Red Sox hat, or wears clunky yard sale jewelry distracts the audience from the main purpose.
Basically, put a lot of thought into how you dress. The last thing you need is for your pants to have an effect on the impact of your speech.
Yes.
Yeah.
Posture.
Posture is another major physical aspect of public speaking. How you carry yourself affects your audience's opinion of you. When you speak, make sure you stand up straight but not rigid. It's never a good idea to shift your weight from one foot to the other, and try not to cross and uncross your legs. Also, make an effort not to lean forward onto the desk or podium. Just take time to make yourself comfortable before a speech. You can make yourself comfortable by breathing naturally and standing with your feet roughly shoulder length apart.
Your posture should say, "Doggone it, I'm stable," and "By Job, I'm assured." The trick of it is, you should be relaxed without looking sloppy. If you can hack it, your speech will improve that much more.
Body placement. A lot of the time, speakers trap themselves behind a podium. They cling to it and use it as a crutch. This is limiting.
If you're speaking from behind a podium, it's a good idea to step away occasionally. You don't want the podium to be a barricade between you and the audience. Movement in the direction of the audience shows you trust them. Movement's also a good way to make clear transitions within a speech. If you're moving on to discuss a different point, movement of your body can let the audience know that.
Gestures.
Gestures are equally important in the physical presentation of your speech. Gestures are the movements of your hands and arms during your speech, and they're used to emphasize your ideas. Incorporating gestures into a speech is sometimes a problem for speakers.
Speakers are usually pretty conscious of their hands. A lot of the time they have no idea what to do with them. Fidgeting, clenching your fists, and any other unintentional hand motions will do nothing but distract from your speech. Well-timed, well-conceived hand gestures can really enhance a speech.
Facial expressions.
Facial expressions are bound to be an important part of your speech. If you're talking about something sad, you're going to look sad. If you're talking about something frustrating, you're going to look angry. And if you're talking about how great celery is, you're going to want to convey a look that says, "Hey, I enjoy celery." In any case, you want to make sure that your facial expressions are appropriate to the subject matter of your speech. Somebody who smiles all the way through a serious speech will lose their credibility real quick.
And that's why it's important for us to fight against all forms of disease.
One really important point to remember about facial expression is that eye contact is extremely essential.
In mainstream American culture, somebody who's unable to look a person in the eye is perceived as having something to hide.
Also, speakers who don't look at the audience can't see how the audience is reacting. The audience's facial expressions can give clues about what interests them in a speech and what doesn't. This feedback can help you adjust the speech to their needs.
But if you try to make eye contact with everyone in the room, you'll look like a jackrabbit hopped up on caffeine and sugar. Your best bet is to mentally divide the room into 3 or 4 parts and shift your focus between these areas. This way, every listener will feel like you're directly talking to them.
Vocal aspects.
The easiest way to make a speech fun and memorable for everybody involved is to make changes in the use of your voice. That's called vocal variation, and it's also one of the ways the audience will judge your credibility. That's why right here and now, we're going to discuss some of the most important dimensions of voice. Stuff like volume, pitch, rate, and pausing.
Volume.
Volume refers to loudness of voice. Most of the time, the volume of your speech will depend on the size and shape of the setting it's delivered in. If you're in a large, open barn, you'd better be loud. If you're in a tiny cafe, your voice should be softer. In any event, being too loud or too soft can be a problem. Speak too soft.
We will fight the enemy on the land, in the sea, in the air.
And the audience will strain to hear you. But speak too loud.
Choosing the right couch is important for any homeowner.
And the audience will feel uncomfortable. So make sure you hit the right balance.
In addition to controlling the volume for the whole speech, changing the volume at certain points in the speech can help emphasize important ideas.
Raising your voice stresses a really dramatic or important point, and lowering your voice causes the audience to really concentrate on what's being said. Use these techniques wisely. They're valuable tools indeed.
Pitch.
Pitch is the placement of voice on the musical scale, ranging from high to low. You know, like in singing. A soprano
has a higher pitch than an alto.
La.
Like volume, pitch can be raised and lowered for emphasis. You can raise your pitch higher.
Can we accomplish this? Yes, we can.
Or you can lower your pitch.
Can we accomplish this? Yes, we can.
Still, you have to bear in mind that an extremely high or low pitch will distract the audience.
Sometimes during a speech, your voice wavers and your pitch rises.
And that's the truth of the matter. We need to cut spending.
This is due to the tensing of vocal cords as a result of stress.
To prevent this, try to relax as much as possible by controlling your breathing. This lets you have enough air to finish each thought. Yawning and swallowing can also help you relax your vocal cords before taking the platform.
Another tried and true method used to create a more pleasant sounding pitch is consciously relaxing the muscles in your shoulders. Also, instead of projecting your voice from your throat, use your diaphragm. That's the muscle that forms a wall between the lungs and your abdomen. This helps your pitch because the diaphragm controls the stream of air over your vocal folds, which produce the voice.
One of the most distracting problems having to do with pitch is speakers who deliver their speech in monotone. That's a speech given at the same pitch with no variation the whole way through. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
That's why a carnival is so exciting. It has rides, games, cotton candy.
It's easy to see why a speech delivered in monotone is so good at inducing sleep. You need to vary your pitch. Otherwise, you risk making your speech mind-numbingly boring.
Just be aware of the quality of your voice, and you'll be better able to adjust your overall vocal delivery. Swing, bada, 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 swing!
Rate. The rate is the speed at which a person speaks. It seems so often in this world of ours, people either speak a mile a minute or like a slug on a bad night's sleep. Where's the even keel? Where's the happy median? Well, when it comes to your rate of speech, the happy median is what you need to strive for.
The average rate of speech is about 125 to 150 words per minute, but rate, like pitch, can really increase if you get nervous. This isn't good for a bunch of reasons. First, Racing through your speech makes it really difficult for the audience to follow your ideas. If you're cruising through your speech like a chimpanzee on a Mountain Dew high, the audience doesn't have time to process and react to what they hear. Secondly, if you're rushing yourself, you'll leave the audience with the feeling that you want to leave the stage as soon as possible.
If you need to slow down your rate of speech, controlled breathing will help you relax and put on the brakes. But don't overcompensate and go too slow. If you go at a snail's pace, you'll give the audience a chance to write shopping lists in their head or possibly remember that they left the stove on. So keep that rate even, unless you have something you want to emphasize.
A lot of the time, varying your rate can be critical. For example, slowing down your rate can communicate serious, calmness, or sadness.
And if we don't save our environment, who will save us?
While speeding up your rate can convey suspense or anger.
Lumberjacks cut down trees every day. Corporations bulldoze forests. But how can we live without shade?
So don't be afraid to vary your rate. Changing your rate as you go can really affect the meaning of your speech.
Enunciation.
Enunciation is kind of similar to articulation. Enunciation is precision and distinctness in sounding words, so you have to make sure to speak distinctly. Then again, just like everything else, this rule isn't gospel. Some people over-enunciate, speaking in an overly precise fashion.
George Jefferson. Who is he, and what does he have to do with you?
This can come off as pompous and condescending. That's bad. Over-enunciating will only take away from your message, so try to speak distinctly, but naturally. Enough said.
Pronunciation.
Pronunciation is the way of speaking a word which is generally accepted and understood. There's a lot of ways to mispronounce a word. There's accenting the wrong syllable.
We must strive to ban nuclear weapons.
There's pronouncing a vowel short when it should be long, or vice versa.
We must strive to ban nuclear weapons.
And then there's messing up the word altogether.
We must strive to ban nuclear weapons.
There's no doubt that mispronunciation can affect a speech negatively. It can prevent your audience from understanding the meaning of a word, or it can call attention to itself and reduce your credibility. The audience will wonder if you really know your stuff when you can't pronounce the words in your own speech. So, if you're unsure about the pronunciation of a word, make sure you look it up or substitute another word in its place.
We must strive to ban weapons of mass destruction.
And those are the ins and outs of delivery.
You learn stylistic techniques like parallel structure.
We cannot, we will not, we must not go without a recreation center.
Antithesis.
The question is, not how can we save our money, but how can our money save us?
And imagery.
I can still hear the lonely plink of broken glass falling against the pavement.
You also got the heads up on rate.
Anyone will tell you we must quickly charge forward.
And volume.
But the naysayers will tell you a community center wastes money.
You've learned the most important basics of vocal delivery.
Keep them in mind and the audience just might fall down at your feet. Jim, they'll yell, or Terry, or whatever your name is. Your speech is so good, we would like to buy you lunch and give you money. And you'll be happy. Happy like a fox. Because you know all they want is your public speaking secrets. Don't give them away. Make them earn it. You'll be glad you did.
And that's the end of our program. Now you can sit back and let all that newfound public speaking knowledge sink in. Or you can get out there and speak up a storm. If you have any questions, just give us a call at 1-800-238-9669. And for more information, check us out on the web at www.standarddeviance.com. Good luck on your future speaking endeavors. And by the way, if this program pays off and you become famous or wildly successful, mention us, okay?